Hi and welcome to this video, which is all about transforming a second-hand car, which we've spent many weeks searching for, into something that's a bit tired to something which potentially wouldn't be amiss at a car show. This is the Fiesta ST story. Firstly, you tell me if you think we've got a good deal or not. So we've searched for several weeks now for a Fiesta ST S, I should say, for my son, 1 litre Zetec Eco Boom. Now, for those who know what Eco Booms are, they do like to go boom. So trying to find one with a wet belt's been done has been a bit of a task. So we've called numerous traders, we've called private sales, and really even only half of them answered the phone or got back to us, and that includes the traders. So trying to eliminate the ones that looked like they were good and weren't the right cars for us took a bit of time, and you decide for yourselves as to if you think we got a good deal out of this car. So in the end, we found this car, and it was only about 20 odd miles away from where I live, and it was one that actually I dismissed because the advert on Auto Trader, it really wasn't the best. The presentation of the car could have been better, and the listing actually said it got a new engine. So there was this photograph of this car that looked like it got panels of different colours, and the engine had been changed. So kind of alarm bells are ringing. I dismissed this car, and after talking to some other traders, which incidentally was quite interesting in some of the things they said to me, one of them said to me, I said, has the wet belt been changed? Because it got full service history. I don't think so. Right, okay. How would I know if the wet belt's been changed? Said the seller. I said, well, you'll have documentation. He said, well, I haven't got that. I said, right, okay. I said, but you can come and drive it, he said, and you'll be able to tell then, won't you? That's not the car for us. I'm not entirely sure how to know that. And another one said to me once he got a car full service history is that it hadn't been changed to his knowledge, but they don't generally get changed. They just snap, and they come in when they snap. So I wait till the cam belt and the wet belt snap away, and I need a new engine. Really bizarre. Some of the things some of the traders said to try and get me there were just out of the world. So you decide if we get a good deal or not. This car has done 61,000 miles, but it's got a new engine. The engine was fitted by an independent fitter that's supplied by Ford in the long run. So I've got an engine which is what, £4,000. So the wet belt to be changed in a Fiesta Zetec is around about £1,200 to £1,400, depending on who you know and or what you know. So if you're buying a car, which generally this time in 2025, the Fiestas are worth, from 2013 to 2016, in the region of £3,000 to £4,500 sort of top kind of money. We paid 4.2 for this, so potentially from a private sale that's a little bit over the top. But the engine's been done, so the wet belt doesn't need doing, and essentially it shouldn't need doing. The Ford say 100,000 miles or 10 years, I believe. Go to the forums, they'll tell you really you want to do it in 7 years and after 70,000 miles, just to be safe. Hence why there's so many of those vehicles up for sale, round about the kind of money that they are. They're reasonably cheap, and there's quite a lot of car, but you've got an expensive amount of money, or a large expense, to have the wet belt changed. So the car looks pretty decent. The wheels got a few marks on them, but what we're going to do is I'm going to take the wheels off, wheel arches done, inner wheels, maybe just try a bit of tarting up of the wheels ourselves because the budget won't allow for a full refurb. Caliper's probably painted, seats are going to come out, we're going to fully decontaminate it, going to machine polish it, and I'm going to turn it into a car which should not be amiss on a Ford stand at a show somewhere. So keep tuned and see how I do this with the steam clean, the rotaries, the DAs, everything that's going to be used. I'll show what I'm using. using and how I've done it. Some are going to be old school kinds of way of me using it, and I'll probably get criticised, but that's the way I work. I'm going to sand it down and I'm going to give it the best possible finish in the time scale that we've got to get on the road in 12 days after I've been sitting in this seat, when he's going to be able to insure this vehicle to go on the road. So I'm Matt Jones, stay tuned, and hopefully you'll see the turnaround, what can be achieved either by myself or essentially by an enthusiast, a weekend warrior, to the finish that I can obtain. So enjoy. So the Fiesta's been home now, it's actually on the road. The day we got it back was a mad day of absolutely gutting it, doing all the wet work, both interior and exterior. Now the first things I carried out on there was the use of TFR, the dreaded TFR. Old school people like me use TFR, still do. People now use citrus pre-washes. Essentially, TFR, what is it? It's a traffic film remover. It removes traffic film. It's one phrase. Unfortunately, all the cheap, horrible, nasty products get put into that category and sometimes get confused. But there is a place for Caustic TFR, and that is used under the bonnets and our wheel arches. Those being the most dirtiest places, so you want a powerful caustic punch to get all that dirt off. If you don't want to use it, fine, but it will be one of your quickest ways of cleaning off dirt, oil, and those really hard, horrible things you've got to get off your car. So, wheels off. You do tend to get carried away whilst you see bits that want doing, and one notable things was the rust on the car, the rust bits where generally you'll get the rust anyway, but round the drums and the rear axle was rusting. So once you take those wheels off to potentially paint the calipers and tidy those up, you see the rest of the rust. And this is where a new product came in, which I have not used before. So I thought I'd give it a go. So this is kind of even a product review on something which maybe you haven't come across. It's a rust remover. Fantastic. Now, I don't think this product was made for the job that I wanted it to do, but if it saves some of my labour time down, then it was worth giving it a go. So I hoped on the basis it would reduce the amount of rust on the axle, on the rear beam, so I could paint it. In reality, it did virtually nothing. It actually cost me more time because it's a gel. Now, I haven't tried it on light rust, which I will do, and that may be what it's made for, and hopefully it will do the job. But if you're looking at using this product then on something which I did, then I would just advise just using a rub down and repaint. So these areas that we're doing, we're not looking to get an absolutely perfect finish. It's just a basis of making it look pretty. It's your new vehicle, it's a new thing, you want it to look pretty. So if it sees you through or maintains, then that's exactly what you're looking to achieve. So you could have painted it with hammerite, which goes straight onto rust anyway. I actually used a high temperature paint, which is the same one I used to go on other areas of cars, or an engine-based engine enamel, which will do a similar thing. So it was just a case of making it look nice. So when you look at the wheels and you can see through the wheels, instead of seeing a load of rust, you see a nice black painted surface area. You'll more than likely notice that looking at the car and whilst I'm washing it down, you can see the rain coming down. I got as wet as the car did pretty much, just washing the car down, but on the basis I had no choice, that's what we were doing. So taking the seats out and wet vacuuming the seats, I look absolutely filthy, and to be fair, I am, because the amount of dirt that came off jacking the car up on the floor and taking the seats out, kneeling on the floor, I got filthy, but in essence it didn't matter because I'm cleaning everything up anyway. So those seats were out, and the idea was actually to use steam, but on the basis that the wet vac was out and it had to be extracted. There wasn't much cause for me using steam, but what I did do is I filled the tank up with as hot water as possible from the tap. So you're breaking down the dirt as well whilst you're extracting. The interior the same. And the reason why I wanted the seats out, well, multiple reasons. It makes it easier to clean the seats, is that I wanted the carpets all cleaned as well. And once they're wet vac, at this time of year when it's cold and damp, if you have a wet car, you could essentially be opening a can of worms and create yourself more problems by making that car damp and not giving the opportunity to dry out properly. As much as you try and extract the water out, it will always stay damp and will not dry out, especially if the car's not being used and is in a shady area. So that was the reason being for doing that. But in doing that, I also noticed that the runners and parts of the seats were rusty. So I created myself another problem, or something else which I had to make look pretty again. So it was a case of rubbing down parts of the seats to respray them in a satin black finish, which actually, once finished, it looked nice and it finished the car off, or certainly the interior once all the carpets were cleaned. The seats came out all nice and fresh, and the red parts, the red inserts around the seats were filthy, and they came out as bright, and it couldn't have really come out better than I could have hoped for, really. It achieved exactly what we were aiming for, and having the seats dried out, ready to bolt back in within a week of having the car back on the road. Now, one of the reasons why we're going to town on this car, one, obviously it's a new car for my young son, so I wanted to be clean, special car to him. I've got a soft spot for Fiestas, because guess what? My first car was a Fiesta, and not only that, it was this. Hopefully you can see that, the Fiesta Super Sport. All blurry, I'll put another photograph up of that. The Fiesta Super Sport was a limited edition Fiesta, which our Fiesta owes an awful lot to, and so does Ford, in all fairness. It was bought out in 1980, I think it was 80 to 82, with only about 3,000, around 3,000 vehicles were made. It had the spats on the side, it had the RS wheels, it had the transfers. Would it sell? My gosh, did it sell? Then what happened then? XR2. The whole XR2 and the Fiesta hatchback hot hatch scene completely exploded, which of course then went to the XR2i, the RS 1800i, and of course the absolutely legendary RS Turbo. And I loved that car. In Sunburst Red, it was just everything to me. It was polished every single Sunday. It was cleaned every single Sunday. It was vacuumed. And this is where we are now with another Fiesta. The end of line of the Fiestas. No more Fiestas. What a sad thing. How many people grew up driving a Fiesta or learning to drive a Fiesta? So this is why, one of the reasons why I wanted to make this car look really special. One of the things you do when you clean a car, it gives you more information and the time to actually understand and inspect a vehicle more than just walking around it. You always notice a lot more. It's a bit like having a partner. The longer you're with them, the more things you find wrong with them, all right with them. Could get in trouble here. And that's what happens really. When I looked around the car, I couldn't see any signs of paintwork that had been completed, and if it had been done, then it'd been done pretty decent, because there was no mask signs around the door shuts, there was no overspray, there was no orange peel. But as with anything of a vehicle of that age, it's had some paintwork. It's had at least the front wing painted on one side, so that underneath the wheel arch, when you cleaned it all off, there was primer and paint stuck to the plastic on there, and underneath there's a exhaust rubber which also has red on it as well, which could be the front bumper, which I hope not, if it's painted on, could get some lacquer peel on that, or potentially also where that front one was painted, maybe some blending. But either way, as much it would be amazing if you could find a car that's had no paintwork of that age, in reality it's going to be extremely difficult to find. And from what I've seen, from unpolished so far, which is not the whole vehicle, is that the finish is okay, it's good, and you can't tell on the basis it has had some paintwork, which is all you can really ask for. But this is quite a good tip to have, really. If you are looking at a car and the light's getting bad and it's getting dark, sometimes you've got to drive long distances and you lose light, then not a bad way of looking at your paintwork is to take it into a filling station, because filling station lights are pretty bright, so you can park it underneath there and you can get an idea of what condition the paint's in. In our respect, really, it didn't make a huge amount of difference because I knew that I was going to be polishing the paintwork up anyway. So as long as the paint looked okay, without any real horrible signs of paintwork or rust, then it didn't really matter to me because it was going to be sanded and polished anyway. But it's a useful thing to think about if you are looking at a car potentially to buy. So this is where we are now, and the polishing work should go on this weekend. I've had to do this whole vehicle at home, which has meant getting home after work around about 6 o'clock and lying on the floor and painting all the bits, putting seats back in, a bit more wet vacuum, just so I can try and get the vehicle back on the road in time for his insurance, which runs out on his old car, and then the new insurance starts on the Fiesta, which we achieved. Slightly annoying because I've got to do the polishing work and wash all the vehicle down again, but all the wheel arches were ceramic coated once they were cleaned off, which essentially it's not going to make a huge amount of difference, but it will help in some shape or form. And then just why not, once the wheels are off, if you're doing all the painting around there, it's only going to take a few more minutes. And I didn't use a particularly expensive ceramic coating, one that was left over, so every little helps, I suppose. It's now just after Christmas and the car is finally finished. Now, before I tell you about the process and how I finished this car off, the polishing, the cleaning, the cleansing, everything else, I'd like to give you a bit of insight of another video that will come out on this car, because if you're interested in ceramic coatings, and especially if your thoughts on how a dealer ceramic coating comes up against an accredited ceramic coating, well, this car has been coated in both. Half in accredited and half with a dealer ceramic, which was Superguard's Bionic. And I think you might be quite surprised. So I'll tell you all about how it was applied and how it works, and then how it performs down the line from start to finish. But here we are now with the Fiesta. So the process of cleaning the Fiesta, spoke about it before, used TFRs, one caustic, one non-caustic. The caustic went on the wheel arches and the engine bay, and the non-caustic went around the bodywork. That was applied by a pump spray, and then the snow foam went on top to help it dwell and get the dirt off. Onto the wheels. Now the wheels, well, I probably spent too much time cleaning them because actually in the end they were actually fully refurbed. So I kind of wasted my time. But black wheels, they always seem to be a bit of a problem. Now, whether it's because they're black and they hold more heat in, but they always seem to have more brake dust on them. So on cleaning these wheels, they had the embedded dust on them. So I used a phosphate-free wheel acid to get all that dirt off inner rims and outer rims, which then exposed all the corrosion, and the adhesive which was left on the once where the weights were on there for the wheel balancing was then removed with both a caramel wheel or a toffee wheel, they're known as both things, fitted to a drill, and some tar and glue remover just to use that last residue off. Once the car was all pressure washed down and the dirt was off, then the application of the fallout remover was put on to remove those embedded bits of brake dust onto the paintwork. And that's was difficult to see because obviously it's red paintwork, but we could see it doing its job just about, and it removed those last few bits before the tar and glue remover, and then of course the clay. The clay cloth was used, which was Martin Cox's medium grade. Now that was used because it works very quickly and is effective. But do bear in mind, if you're using a clay cloth, especially on the more aggressive side, that they will mar. It didn't matter because essentially I was sanding the car down anyway, but that's the fastest way and most efficient way of claying a vehicle down, and try to go in straight lines when you're claying. I actually got really lucky with the wheels because I contacted the wheel refurb company, and two really needed professional refurbing, and two I could probably get away with doing myself. Now I knew that to do them myself, those two wheels would take me about 3 to 4 hours to redo. When I called the company up, they said they were actually quite quiet before Christmas, and they gave me such a good deal that all the wheels were refurbed, so the inner rims got done, all the corrosion was removed, and we got a pretty much factory finish, arguably better. And once that was done, we coated the wheels with a wheel coating as well to give them that added protection since they were powder coated. The calipers and the drums were prepped using a wire brush fitted to a drill, and so that came from Screwfix. Screwfix do a nice little pack which fit in all the areas quite nicely, so you can rub those down. And the paint that was put on was an engine enamel high temperature paint with both in the grey and the black, which freshened all the areas up and really worked quite nicely. Now, removing the number plates is always useful because it gives it a far easier area to polish. But not only did we remove the number plates on this, we removed the badges, because I personally think it's the same way that it looks better without any badges on. It turns out that someone's already tried to get the badge off one side and chip the paintwork. So the easy way of getting badges off is to just heat them up and peel them off. If they don't come off easy, then get something like fishing wire and put them behind the badge and it will come off. It will cut through that adhesive and pull them off. I generally never really need to use it in that way, but it can be something which will be used if you're struggling. And once that badge is off, then the same with the number plates is that there was quite a lot of adhesive left over, is that you can get that adhesive off by heating it up carefully with a heat gun or a hairdryer and just rubbing it with your thumb, and that will roll up and pull most of it off. If it doesn't get it all off, then there's two other things you can do. You can put tar and glue remover on it, which breaks it down, which does get a bit messy. You'll need like a plastic scraper to scrape all the glue off, remove the glue off and just wipe down, and keep generally using that process until it comes off. Or once again, you can use a toffee wheel on the drill, which is far more aggressive and carries more risk with it. But you can do it that way. And if it's really bad, then what you can do is you can get some cotton wool, soak the cotton wool in tar and glue remover and leave it for a long duration. When you come back, it might even lift it all up in one go, but it needs very little wiping off afterwards. The glass was polished and then was treated with System X's Glass X to give it water repellency. Also helps the cars outside, so it does deflect some frost on there, and come summertime it also makes it a bit easier to get the flies off the windscreen as well. So prep it all up by polishing it on a DA with a glass polish, and then wiping it down and then applying the glass coating. Onto the machine polishing. Probably everyone's favourite part of detailing is the paint correction. So the process that I use to make this as fast and efficient as possibly, especially when time was limited for myself, it's not something which I had in abundance, is that I used a DA with Trizac, 3M's Trizac and 6000 Trizac. So the 3000 gets rid of orange peel and heavier defects, and the 6000 refines. On the roof, I actually block sanded it with 2000. I don't generally go lower than 2000 because I find 1500 sometimes can put in deeper scratches. If I have to, I will, but it's generally 2000, 3000 and 6000. The point of 6000 is that you're cutting down your polishing time quite a lot. You're leaving it a better finish. You're getting the defects out from the 3000s. It's not essential, but put onto a Rupees DA, it works lovely. It's very smooth and you get a nice finish then to polish up. And once you've got the polishing, I use an old school wool, fully twisted wool. It's aggressive. It can leave hazing when you're polishing, which needs refining, but it does cut very quickly. Onto a rotary, a 200mm head fitted onto the DeWalt polisher. The DeWalt polisher is used because it's heavy. It's got a lot of torque. You will need that torque if you're running a 200mm head. Yes, you can run it on like a UK normal style polisher, a 6-inch, it's used for 6-inch and 160mm pads. But use on long periods of time, and that will therm out. It will start again, but it will stop because it's overheated. I also had a 6-inch head fully twisted, so that was fitted onto a flex rotary polisher also for the smaller intricate areas that get into smaller gaps. And I had a Milwaukee pistol gun which had a Lake County wool head and had foam fitted to it as well for those smaller areas. Those smaller areas were then refined with a 3-inch pad on a flex polisher, and I also had a DeWalt cordless polisher, which is great for refining and also cutting. If you want an all-in-one machine, your budget is low, go and look at buy one of those. If you're an enthusiast, battery life's pretty decent too. And that was then used to refine using Koch Chemie F6, I think it is, and the heavy cut was done by Koch Chemie H3, I think it is. I generally use Malco Epic, but at the time in the UK there wasn't any here, so Koch Chemie was still does a really good job. So that's our Fiesta, all polished, all clean, all looking beautiful. Something that will not be amiss on a Ford show somewhere. So if you're looking to see how the ceramic coatings perform, don't forget that you've got the dealer approved versus the accredited approved, and see how they get on. But if you'd like your car doing by myself, then you can contact me on the contact forms which are on the website, or send a message via whatever social scene is on, because I'm Matt Jones from Bedford Valeting and Detailing.com, and this was the Fiesta S project.
Can't stop me. I'll just hold on for dear life. Yeah, I can't give up this feeling that I get when looking down from this height. Oh, now with you.